So if you have your questions, write them out on a card. We'll pick up the name cards later, but we just want the question cards at this point. The large cards, pass them in, and the ushers will pick them up here. There's one down here, I see. No, I said on the large card, questions, pass them to the center. Hold your name card. Hold your name card. We'll do that in a minute. John, you want to come up? So I think to start out with, you had a couple of questions from Given turned in last night.
Mm-hmm. Before we do, let me just mention this. I wasn't able to bring these because certain transport issues, they probably would have come broken and so on. So that was not the idea. But if any of you are interested, people have asked me, how can we get your books and stuff like that. This CD contains 17 of my books and about 5,000 pages, including many unpublished articles and all kinds of things. And it's searchable. So you can punch in a Bible text and find, whatever I've said. So the neat thing about it is if you bought all the books, and many of them are not even in print anymore, it would cost maybe $250, $300, but just $20 for this. It plugs into the computer, and they're PDF files, which any computer can read. And then Simply Revelation is a 4-hour series, the entire book of Revelation. The big moves in 4 hours. It's a video, and that would be $30. If you're interested in them, Dwayne will sign you up at the end and take your money, and I will ship to him whatever it is that you have purchased, and they should be available in a couple of weeks. All right, so that's just a little commercial.
There'll be a table out in the lobby and a couple of folks out there with a sheet that you can sign up with your name, address, and you can pay them the money, and then they'll ship it to you.
And I'll give these to you so you can have them back there to display.
Okay. So go with one of your questions.
All right. Question number 1. What did you mean that forgiveness is a metaphor? Now, I recognize that forgiveness for us is a live concept. We're no longer in touch that it is a metaphor. But when it comes to salvation, salvation is about two things. It's about a problem and about a solution. And depending on how you phrase those is where the metaphors come in. Forgiveness is a banking metaphor. If you think of the problem of sin as a debt that you owe God, then what you need is forgiveness. If you think of the problem of sin as being guilty, say in a court of law, what you need is justification. If you think of it, the problem of sin as being dirty, then what do you need? Get cleaned up. That's a household metaphor or even a sanctuary metaphor. If you think of it as defeat, you're constantly being beaten, what do you need? Victory. It's a military metaphor. So there's a variety of metaphors, and forgiveness has its root in the banking concept. So that's why I call it a metaphor. I realize that for most of us it has a very real and concrete meaning now, but its root is in the New Testament, is in banking metaphors. All right. Was or was not Jesus able to see beyond the grave while on the cross? Question mark. If he was, why did he say, "My God, why have you forsaken me?" Well, I think probably answered your own question here. If Jesus felt completely abandoned by God, then he must not have been able at that point to see through to the positive side. And the beauty of that in the cross is that when you're at that moment in your life, when your Friday is present, when you can't see any good coming out of the situation, you're exactly where Jesus was. He experienced that. He knows what it's like. You can go to him at that time and know that Sunday's coming, as Anthony Coppola used to say.
Let me throw in one here.
Okay.
Just to mix you up and get you off.
Mix me up.
Yeah. So with all these metaphors, someone asked, was that because the writers were confused and didn't really understand this? Or was this something that was meant to show different facets? Yeah,
it's meant to show different facets. Metaphors are used because different writers felt that different metaphors were really helpful. Jesus used 2 of them, not 8. He liked the covenant one, and he liked the ransom one, and neither of those are widely used today. So the metaphors were chosen to express a truth that would come in language people could understand. All right. Colossians 1:19-20 says that the cross reconciles things on earth or in heaven. These are great questions, by the way. Got some tough thinkers here. Does this mean that Christ's atonement reconciles the fallen angels and Satan also? Does God's forgiveness extend to the demons as well? Okay. And I guess the best biblical answer to most questions is yes and no. Absolutely yes. If Jesus Christ is the Creator, then His death has infinite value. The cross will never need to be repeated. There is enough there to save everyone who has ever lived or ever could live. As long as Jesus is the Creator, the cross is value for all. So the redemption is that big. And maybe it's good at communion to have a few of the juice and the bread left over at the end, because it means there's enough there for everybody. But not everybody may choose to be served. The problem with Satan and his angels is they've made such a commitment that they're not turning back. They're not going to receive God. They're not going to trust in Him. The problem is not with God. The cross is big enough to save even Satan. But I think he's gone past the hope of making that decision.
How did Satan return to heaven on occasion after he was cast out, as sinners cannot survive in the presence of a holy God?
Well, we know that God is able to come to earth in a form that we can survive Him, because the sanctuary was built in order that He might be in their midst. And so God used the sanctuary as a means of being present with His people without the destructive outcome. And so Jesus, in His incarnation, came to us in the same way. So I would say that God, you had all the other creatures there as well. And God, when He presents Himself to His creatures, does so in a way that they can survive.
Okay.
I don't know what else to say. The Bible doesn't really address the question. Yeah. In John 17, Jesus tells His Father, I have finished the work you gave me to do. And this was hours before the cross. Great question. Right? That's John 17 and verse 4, I think. John chapter 17 and verse 4. I read to you verses 1 to 3. It says here, I glorified you on earth, having accomplished the work you gave me to do. The glory of God is His character. Jesus glorified God in the life that He lived up to that point. So this prayer is kind of a transition between the life of Jesus and the death of Jesus. And now He prays, I have glorified you, now glorify me again so that I may glorify you. In the Gospel of John, the glory of Jesus is the cross. John 12:23 and 24. Jot that down if you're the one that asked the question. John 12:23 and 24 says, now the Son of Man will be glorified. If a seed fall into the ground and die, it will bring forth much fruit. So for John, the glory of Jesus is the cross. And when he asks God to glorify Him, he's asking Him for the strength to truly exhibit God's character there on the cross. So the work that He has finished, the glorification He has finished, is His life of demonstrating the character of God. Now He's going to go to His death as a demonstration of God's character. And John 17 is the place where that's most clearly taught.
Does Jesus have a separate and independent life source from the Father? If so, how could a divine sacrifice have been made at the cross? They say, see John 5:26.
One of my favorite professors, Raoul Dederin, got very exercised on that question. And he says, he was very clear, and I basically see it the way he does, but I could be argued out of it perhaps. But he basically said divinity does not die by definition. So what died on the cross was the humanity of Jesus. But if you follow the great debates about the nature of Christ, it was that he was one person with two natures. So the person of Jesus dies in his humanity on the cross. Divinity did not die, and yet the person of Jesus did die because he was human. That's how Dederin explained that. What happens to the divinity at that time? Dederin used the term, it was quiescent. You know, that's a French word, okay? So I think we're beyond my pay grade on that question. But I would say that if divinity could not die, the fact that he became human enabled his death. And so you have in Revelation 5, for example, the lamb that was slain is both human and divine, and it's in his humanity that he could die. So if that makes sense to you, then that is how to put the two together.
And let's end on a little lighter note. Tell us a little bit about what's going on at Loma Linda in the School of Religion. Anything new and exciting going on there?
Well, we're very excited at the School of Religion because we are developing the first ever programs in chaplaincy. Up until now, chaplains are trained the same way pastors are trained, and then they kind of get thrown into the job and sort of learn it as they go. And for whatever reason, no chaplaincy programs have ever occurred anywhere in the United States. So
you're saying they could be a chaplain without being a pastor?
Well, what we have is an MS program in chaplaincy. And yes, well, in a sense, yes, that's true. We encourage them to be active in their local churches during the program and so on. But the MS in chaplaincy is designed to meet the 29 competencies that the chaplaincy certifying bodies require. So a person can be fully ready to go on the floor right after their master's degree. So that's something new that has not happened anywhere else in the country just yet. And one of our graduates went to UCLA for expanded training, and she said she didn't learn much. In other words, there were a bunch of MDiv students there, and they were eating up everything, and she said, I'd heard all that before. So it's a fast track to chaplaincy, and it's tied together with a brand new Doctor of Science in Religion and Health. We're really excited about that, our first doctoral program, and it will train people to integrate religion and health. So Dwayne, for example, let's say you wanted to integrate your medical ministry with religion. You could take that program, if you wanted to, and in that program you would emphasize the religion side, but every class and every project would be about integrating that religion in your medical ministry, putting the two together. That also is a degree that has never occurred before anywhere in the United States. So at Loma Linda, we are not trying to copy the seminary. We're not trying to train pastors. The seminary does that very, very well. But there's a need in integration of health and religion that is not being done anywhere else in the world. And since we've had 100 years experience in doing that, we thought it was time we put out some programs that could do that kind of integration.
Did you get any response from other schools about this, or other professional folks?
Outside the Adventist church, there's been a lot of enthusiasm, yeah. Obviously, within the church, people are always a little bit nervous. Are you getting into Andrew's stuff? And I say, hey, if Andrews could do these degrees, they're welcome to them. But they would have to hire at least 4 professors, 10 chaplains, and create a teaching hospital. We've already got that, so why reinvent the wheel? Let's do what we do well and let Andrews do what they do well. And, you know, in our minds at least, there's no competition here.
Good.
We each do different things.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Appreciate the answers to the questions and your presentations.
Thank you.
Now is the time to turn in your card for the IHOP gift certificate. In case we're missing it, I saw it laying down there. He dropped it when he came up. So we'll go ahead and have that drawing here in just a moment. Remember, if you're interested in either one of these items, you can sign up at the table in the lobby, and on the other side of the lobby is the refreshments. So the lobby should be a busy place for the next few minutes. And we appreciate Dr. Pauline coming. If you see him rush off, he has to be at Charlotte early in the morning, and he's going to have a very short night. So we appreciate his willingness to do that. I don't trust you guys mixing these things up. Jean Davey. All right. Let's pray as we close. Dear God, it's been good to be here. We thank you that you're the kind of a God who realized that we are not cookie-cutter people, that we all are different and we all can understand things in a different way. We appreciate your giving these many metaphors to help us to be able to understand you. And we just ask that as we work with other people, we'll know how to use these things in a way that will bring glory to you, for we ask it in your name. Amen. Good night.